Hello everybody, this is Renault, and today we're going to start a new series for unit number 44 from Alterna Press. And unit 44 is rated T for teenager, so it's not necessarily for everyone. It's for age 13 and up, but that rated T is actually a little bit of a problem for this book, and that's something I'm going to go into more specifically later. First thing I want to do is let you know that I apologize, but my bookmarks appear to have vanished into thin air. So I'm just going to have to use various knickknacks from around the house to save my space and let me know where everyone is. So Unit 44 is about two agents who work for the FBI. And there's this guy and this guy. These are the two agents. And we get started with, boom, first page. And this is Hatch, and this is Agent Gibson. So, I'm just going to read this for you. We need the hyper-ion drive in order to proceed to phase 2. Thank you. Go ahead, make the call, Gibson. Wait a sec. We still have an off-site storage unit? You mean the thing that has all the secret stuff? Yes, go get it. Well, you see, Hatch. Now, there's a little bit of a problem with this, little bit of a stilted dialogue, and it's that this person, Agent Gibson, is clearly aware that they had a storage unit in the past. He shows some awareness about it. Or actually, both of them have some awareness about it. But then, we'll go to our first skip page. Yep, you guessed it. They hadn't been making payments on it, and so the contents inside the storage unit have been sold outside of the whereabouts of rural Nevada town, Tonopah. Now, he can't believe they sold it, but he's aware that they were 8 months late on the payments. So if Agent Hatch and Agent Gibson had some awareness of the storage unit, and Agent Gibson, the blonde-haired one, is aware that the storage unit was 8 months late, that means that someone alerted him to it. Why was he alerted to it and not the person who makes payments on it? Unless Agent Gibson is the one who makes payments on it, but we're never made sure about it, because that's never addressed. It's like, oh, we were really late about it. We were 8 months late about it. Why wasn't the person who has actually... Why is he aware that it was 8 months late, but not necessarily the person who makes payments on it? And it might have been him, but then that looks really bad, so I don't think it was actually Agent Gibson. It's not really touched upon here. And so they have to report it to their boss, and naturally this means that they have to go get it immediately. So apparently there's something called the Fridakin crystal. And the Fridakin crystal is really special or dangerous. Either way, their boss is very concerned about it. You can see how it's highlighted in red here when he says immediately, for anger emphasis. Now, the reason why I said that this book is rated... hold on. Actually, I'll get into that a little bit later. So the boss is really pissed off. He's like, I'm going to kill your girlfriend. Oh, God, no. And I will kill your mother-in-law. So he's like, I'll be happy with that. This is a little bit of a comedy element there. Well, then, I'll put a bullet in your dog Biscuit. So he's like, you monster. Get out of my sight and don't come back with that crystal. So he's just asking, when did you get your girlfriend? And again, this is tonally off to be asking this question right in front of their boss. They just got chewed out. It's clunky dialogue. That could use some revision there. So let's skip to the next couple of pages. So they head out to Tonopah. And so they're going to say, who's going to do good cop, who's going to play bad cop, etc., etc. And so they're pressing her for information. Agent Gibson is going to play the good cop. So Agent Gibson is asking about, hey, I'm asking about this. Can you tell me about Unit 44? And so she tells him it was sold. And can you tell me who it was sold to? And then, just out of nowhere, Agent Hatch starts banging on the window. And I'm going to read this so you can see how awkward the dialogue is. Because if you don't let us see it, I'll make you wish your daddy and his sister never drank that moonshine, leading to the awful decision that spawned you. But this is out of place. She's like, may we see it, please? Why? It's empty. And then he's just banging on the window, being all angry. But she didn't say, no, you can't see it. No, it's classified. She just says, why? It's empty. So this is like a out of touch reaction here. And it's just clunky. It's like, if she just said, no, I can't let you see it, then maybe this would make a little bit more sense because he's playing the role of bad cop. But she's just saying, why? It's empty. And then he just goes on this diatribe. So again, this rated T for teenage rating is a little bit of a problem because as you're starting to notice, they're handling things with a little bit of immaturity. And so the rated T for teenage rating is coming from just awkward forced profanity and awkward dialogue, but not actually it's like a children's story. This could very easily be a children's story, and it would probably be a better fit as a children's story. But instead, it's rated T for teen. And to make it T for teen, they have a bunch of awkward dialogues. I'll kill you. I'll put a bullet in your mother-in-law. When in reality, just to change a little bit of the dialogue, and this would be an all-ages children's book. It's not teen because of the scenarios like, oh no, we're going to be have our guts or showing a dead body or something like that. It's just children's scenario, and then profanity or I'll kill you just thrown in, and it feels a little bit forced. And so finally, and so we get to meet up with the two people who bought the Unit 44 contents. And so this guy is pretty much doing all the payments, and he's kind of the slacker who's helping. So he's talking about how it seems like these boxes could be dangerous, etc., etc. He's opening it up. He's opening it up some more. He looks inside. Sweet Mother Molly Maiden's mullet. So again, this would be a situation where he would just let out some profanity. This is a situation where instead of having a forced profanity that would look out of place, here is where he should say something like, sweet, fucking dear God, what the hell? Or something like that, because when people are surprised, they're more likely to lose a bit of themselves in off profanity. Instead, it's sweet Mother Molly's maiden mullet. So again, it's handling almost everything as if it was a children's series, except, oh yeah, we need to make it teen, so throw some profanity over here, or I'll put a bullet in your dog over there. And it's like, you can make this a teen book if this had some profanity here, and it wouldn't seem out of place or weird. But instead, we had some forced profanity earlier, and some clunky dialogue earlier. And also, going back to the comment about the girlfriend, when the guy was commenting about how, hey, I didn't know you had a girlfriend. I skipped the pages, but there's a scene where Agent Hatch and Agent Gibson are outside of their boss's office and traveling to Tonopah, Nevada. And that would have been talking about the girlfriend. And that could have been actually a poignant scene to let them know about the agent's backstory. But instead, they were just talking about how they messed up. They're FBI agents, Mistakes happen all the time. Anyway, 9/11 tells us that the FBI agents make mistakes all the time. So let's skip a couple more pages. Hold on. Not going to go there yet. So anyway, they're FBI agents, and so they're standing out. And so they get some costumes. So to help blend in and not look so weird and awkward, they go to the thrift shop. And so they get some change in clothes. Agent Gibson is really playing it up to the bit. But then Agent Hatch kind of messes it up a little bit. Hey, what's with your friend there? Huh? What do you mean? Look at Agent Hatch. Just look at him. He's wearing overalls over a suit. Again, they handle so many situations as if this was a children's series. And the only time they make it actually teenage content is with some awkward scenarios and awkward dialogue. When, like I showed earlier, when the guy was surprised, he could have let out some expletives. That would have made it seem like a teen book and also foreshadowed what's to come. But I can't really tell what's to come because everything is handled kind of childishly, like a kid's series. And again, I think maybe as part of the submission guidelines, maybe he was required to say, maybe Samedi said, hey, we've got a lot of children's books. Can you make this a teenage book? And so maybe that's what happened. But again, it's just a suit over overalls. This is supposed to be a teen book. But it kind of reminds me of the 90s grunge or the dark age of heroes or the dork age of comics where... Because I remember this affecting a lot of the video games, too. It's like, oh, teenage content for mature people only. And for a lot of the time, this would only result in, like, oh, dogs taking a crap in the street or perverted jokes or whatever. When it's like, handle teenage dialogue like a teenage dialogue. This comes across as someone who maybe doesn't have a teenie or doesn't recall what the stuff or situations he handled as a teenager. And so maybe he has a kid or maybe he has a teenager and he doesn't realize the stuff that teenagers are getting into. But again, this is all kind of silly. Anyway, the whole purpose of this scene is that they're asking for directions because they want to find out the two dudes who bought the lot that sold all the stuff in a storage unit. And so that's the purpose of this. But I do like another little comedy bit here. He's like, these are obviously out of towners just because, suit. Anyway, quit hassling these guys, Dad. Look at them. They're just everyday people like us with no type of hidden agenda or ulterior motives. Stop being paranoid. Harumph. And so anyway, they get the directions. But it's like these are obvious FBI agents, mostly because Agent Hatch is wearing a suit with overalls on top. Let's skip a couple more pages and we'll meet with the people who bought the unit. Anyway. And I don't know if the timeline is kind of weird. Because if you recall, the guy was opening up the thing and seeing something that was inside. And so then he was like, sweet Molly mother maiden's mullet or whatever. But we don't get any follow-up on what happened. So I don't know. But this isn't the past. Because they're meeting up with the agents. So if this was in the past, and they're... Anyway, yeah, it's a kind of like I don't know, that's a part that needs an editor. So anyway, they're talking about how that whole unit situation they are talking about was weird. So they saw something weird inside the unit. And they're talking about how the FBI makes people disappear. And then a knock on the door. He's rightly paranoid. He is not. Well, and then boom, FBI agents. Now here's the thing that's weird too. Look at him. He jumps out the window. He gets the hell out of there. Smash. Run for it. Etc. etc. And so he just says, so it begins. And then he's like, I'll take the big guy. Easy does it now. Easy. So he's very gingerly jumping out of the window. And so he's like, well, so he's going to grab him. But then here's another problem with the book. And this is where I start thinking, this book really needs an editor. He's only right here. He's just sitting outside the window. After he's very gingerly trying to get out. He's like, run for it. Run for it. Anyway. And ultimately, every man for himself. And he just runs. Like, isn't he the one who said, run for it? He should be gone. This whole thing here doesn't really make sense. Other than a little bit for comedy effect of him abandoning his friend. Which is kind of, would normally be funny, except I was kind of not digging the tone of the book at this point. Because, he just abandons his friend after his friend, it's like, hey, we gotta stick together. Anyway, he's about to get got, and so he runs. Let's skip a couple more pages. He runs into his truck, and he grabs his gun. And so Agent Gibson is, hey now. We've got all these guns, but again, this is a situation where it's handled kind of childishly, because if you look carefully, okay, these two guns look like they can do some serious damage, but then you've got, oh, whoopsie, it's a fake, and hey, it's a finger gun. How cute. Like, again, this book could and this is the thing, though. He has a gun. He's clearly ready to use it because it's making, like, the, when you take the safety off or you're readying the gun, it's making that sound. So this is a teenage scenario handled with a childish situation. Again, it's tonally off with some awkward dialogue. And I skipped a couple pages, but Hatch captured the other guy. And so so now that they've got them captured or whatever, they're asking them, hey, where's the storage unit? So but another thing is like, hey, if you move, I'll kill you. And I'm not quite sure if that's tonally for teenagers or for children. But he opens up the storage unit at last, and the storage unit is empty. Now look carefully, though. He's outside. He clearly walks up to it, and it looks like they're inside. So the other two guys would probably use this as an opportunity to escape. I mean, the perspective, I can't really tell if they're inside or outside. My first thought is that they're inside. But for the sake of the narrative, we'll just assume they're both outside. So anyway, to be continued. This book series is pretty rough around the edges, not gonna lie. But I'm going to keep buying the series just because it's so cheap. But, yeah, this book was really rough. And by the way, this cover, in case you didn't know, is fake news. And it's eye-catching, but it's fake news. This definitely does not happen in the book. It might be a prelude to what happens to the book, or it might be just a bit that this series is going with. But anyway, hit that like button. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.